This is a message to all my supporters of this podcast. I'm introducing a new supporters program. You can contribute a small amount as a one-off payment to show your love for this podcast. Thank you in advance for all your contributions. I just wanted to let you know before we start the podcast that I am doing an online podcast course, how to be able to create, get your guests, scale it and monetize it. So please do go to abmpodcastcourse.co.uk and go into the contact us bit. I'm looking for new people to be able to be a podcast creator and really to be able to develop their skills and knowledge into a podcast. So as I said, go to abmpodcastcourse.co.uk and sign up. Thanks. This is the Absolute Business Mindset podcast, created and hosted by Mark Hayward. I'm a corporate employee with an entrepreneurial mindset. This podcast will help and support you with new ideas about business. These are my thoughts, ideas, and comments. Today we have Magda Khalifa from New York, and we're going to be talking through her military career and her entrepreneurial lifestyle after that. Hello, Magda. How are you?
Hey, Mark. Great to be here.
Excellent. So thank you so much for joining on the podcast. We're going to dive straight into your degree. So you did a business administration degree. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, so this was in the 90s, and I went with a business administration degree with a concentration in what we called back then management information systems, because technology was coming to the forefront in a big way, and I knew it was important to understand how systems work, so I merged the two together in my studies.
Okay, awesome. So what did you learn from the degree? Was there something that now you've found useful in your future endeavors?
Yes. So at the time, I honestly, I did not want to go to college. I wanted to work. I wanted to build my empire, at that age. But, at the time I was kind of groomed to get that degree and to go into corporate and take that path. But my general takeaway from those studies were that business could be applied, all those business fundamentals could be applied across the board to anything that you were doing. Same with the communications in the form of the technology that I was learning. Of course, that technology is dated and obsolete now, but the same concept is still there. I remember coding, but back then we called it programming, for some of my courses. So it was basic fundamentals of what you needed to know for business, and also incorporating technology with it as well.
Awesome. So you've written that September the 11th changed your life. How did it change your life?
Yes, so living and working in the New York City metropolitan area, the World Trade Center, symbolically, physically, they were massive. I don't know if you've been to the area, back then, but I mean, you could see them for miles and miles away. So I grew up seeing those structures. At the time, I was married at the time, and my husband worked in one of those buildings, but he was not there that day. He did lose, almost 200 coworkers. They had offices on the 101st floor. So it was very personal, for everybody, obviously worldwide, and, everybody in the area and whatnot. I mean, that was huge. That was a game changer. So how did it affect me? I was not able to stay satisfied just continuing to work in my career. I had to do something. Seeing what I saw and smelled and heard and lived through in the aftermath, and not being able to do something to otherwise help the effort, in a direct manner, I needed to do something. And it just made sense at that time to join the Army, the U.S. military, the Army, and go serve overseas.
So you became a combat veteran, and you talk about the Operation Iraqi Freedom. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was the first rotation I went to was in 2004, and it was as the tactics on the ground started to change. We started originally with the Coke or Pepsi aluminum bombs, if you will, and then they escalated to larger size bombs. So that continued to grow. And as you know, we had the first Battle of Fallujah at the end of 2004, and a series of events that really escalated the intensity of the war. So I came home, I was home for 2005, and then I went back over in 2006 to 2007 for a year, and the big pinnacle point was the surge operations that my team was a part of as well. So we lost with the amount of troops that we lost, that out of the units that we were attached to, was very high for many months. I mean, that was some intense fighting at the time. So I left in April of 2007 and returned home to the States at that point.
So just on your time out in Iraq, so I assume there was some hard times, there was some probably upsetting times and things like that. How did you sort of approach every day as in the middle of a war?
So the nice thing, I guess you could say, about when you're a soldier, you go in, sure, you might be scared the first time you go out on a mission because it's the first time and you're in the middle of a war zone, but so you start off green, but you quickly adapt. Most soldiers do, because one, training takes over, and we train in the military, and that's what we train for. Two, most of us wanted to be there. We have a all volunteer army, or military, I should say. And then three, you're fighting alongside your buddies, your friends to your left and your right, and you're a team. You've got each other's backs, regardless if you do not get along when when you're out the wire, so to speak, going out doing your missions. It's game on. You're focused on the mission because survival comes first. You have to complete the mission and keep your buddies alive, and they'll keep you alive as well. So I guess you could summarize that by saying that when you're in the zone, you do what you have to do to keep pushing forth and doing your job.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hi, I'm Alex, the host of X Health Show. Meet the future of healthcare. Think X-Men, that's X Health. Actual superheroes behind programming living cells to cure cancer once and for all. Tech that detects preterm delivery in seconds, brain-computer interface, or apps that employ AI to match you, your disease, with the best treatment. X Health Show brings to you visionaries who push the boundaries of healthcare from Switzerland, the heart of Europe and the most innovative country in the world. Let me introduce you to their startups. Head to X Health Show, meet the future of healthcare. Happy to greet you there.
Awesome. Why did you leave the army?
Well, after 2 tours of combat, I was burnt. I was burnt out. I had some health issues that I didn't know, what they were stemming from initially, in the beginning. Personally, I was going through a divorce. I was having a hard time with transition. I think if those situations didn't exist, I probably would have gone back for a third tour. But I also realized how lucky I was to have made it through the number of missions I'd been on and done the things that I did, and have been, basically came home unscathed, or so I thought. Meaning, to me, I had my arms, my legs, my eyesight, whereas so many of my brethren did not. And, so I realized how fortunate I was. And I knew, if I kept going too, I probably would not have, would not have returned. So it was just a lot to deal with in
Yeah.
one time.
And how did you adjust to civilian life afterwards?
So, and that's the bulk of my struggle, was not what I did in the army, or in the war, but what I did upon returning. That was a difficult time. And the reason I say that is because in 2007, we didn't know what we know now, for sure. We didn't have the resources that we have
Yeah.
now, for sure. It was, obviously modern war had been going on the battlefields in Afghanistan and Iraq for, 6 years at that point. But at the same point, it was still new. We were still collectively as a nation figuring out different things about the transition experience for combat veterans, of this era of warfare, the global war on terror. So I turned to what I knew previously, because I was older when I went in after September 11th. I was 30 years old, 29, 30 years old. So I had my education and, 6 years of corporate experience and a lot of years of, work experience prior to that anyway. So it was all about survival and getting through to the next day. So I, got myself a small, apartment, and I started working full-time as a defense contractor for the military. So I wasn't wearing the uniform, but I was helping train those who were headed over to do the job that, I had done previously. So that gave me some purpose and a paycheck and some structure. But for the most part, it was, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, for instance. And what I did with the rest of my time, I was reclusing. I was alone. I didn't communicate with anyone because hardly anyone would understand what I just went through. How do you explain? How do you shift from that mindset of being, at the forefront, and worrying about your missions, your tactical missions, versus coming home to a normal life, So that was definitely a struggle. But I do, write about that struggle, and I just knew that I needed to keep putting one foot in front of the other and hanging on to hope that I will push through and start to feel better. Now, what did happen over time is I started to volunteer as, a board member for veterans nonprofits to help what I consider veterans who, were far worse off than I was. And that was very helpful and healing to me to be able to help my brethren. But at the same point, I started to learn more about the wounds, the injuries, the exposures that we collectively were experiencing. And I started to understand the root cause of why I was feeling depressed and anxiety and everything else and lethargic. And once I found out that there wasn't anything wrong with me, it was exposures to a lot of, terrible things in the war zone that happens. I was able to start taking control back of my life and making changes. And I did this, in a very, very simplistic form through health and wellness. That's what started to help me turn the page about how I was feeling on a day-to-day basis. And then I was able to sleep better. I was actually able to have dreams for the first time after 8 years, which was powerful. So I continued on that journey, and I was fascinated by what I was learning. And I got to the point where not only was I able to turn around a lot of the bad things that I was experiencing, but I was able to tap into, the far reaches of my brain, and have powerful, dreams, if you will, because I was in such a healthy state, giving my body what it needed to be able to be optimized. And that was so important, energy levels through the roof. I just started seeing things differently. And I remember people coming up saying, there's something different about you. And they didn't know what I was doing exactly. And I can't say I totally understood it at the time, but I knew enough to know that I felt better. And that gave me hope, that supercharged me and kept me going. And, eventually that led me to learning what we all need to do at some point in our lives is, eliminating toxicity from our lives and negativity, and putting in positivity and things that would help us achieve higher performance and get results. So I started listening to mentors, business mentors, and that started changing my thinking about things, about life, about my purpose, my mission. And the combination of the evolution of health and wellness, and then mentorship from people far more successful. When I say successful, I don't mean just financially successful, but also, they've reached significance in life where they're impacting other people's lives. The combination of both really helped me get to a better place, to the point that, we're in 2020 right now. Barely, not even 18 months ago, I realized I needed to share my story, not just to help and inspire others, but to really provide the path that I took so that people could realize that an individual alone can turn their life around if they have that resolve in them, if they really, really, really want to change things. And that's where my new chapter of my journey began.
Okay, so you talked about health and well-being. What was the sort of time period that it took from leaving the army to the point where you actually turned your life around? Because I know there's a lot of people that suffer with depression or sometimes sadness, whether it's trauma. It can be all manner of things. And I get people asking me, like, how do you turn your life around? So first of all, how long did it take you to make that transition, and was it a mindset shift that it took on all levels, whether it's your health, your well-being, and your sort of business mind or your mentality? How long and what did it do for you?
Yeah, I would say the first 4 years after the military, after getting out, of the military, I was struggling. And it was probably in year 5 when I first started cleaning up what I was consuming, meaning I thought I was healthy, but I learned so much about how much our foods are poisoned with, a lot of things, chemicals, toxins, fillers, refined foods. I just eliminated all of that. And I do discuss it in the book, the steps that I took. And in the process of doing that, every little thing that I did, I started to feel better. And by feeling better, I was able to perform better. By being able to perform better, I was able to get results. And I kept going because I had momentum in my life again. So at that point, as I started to improve, so this was around year 5 it started, and then I would say about year 8 is when I had some major breakthroughs with learning about nutraceuticals and superfood nutrition that really focused on, for me anyway, healing the brain and healing those little, intricacies within my body and, my gut and whatnot that were holding me back from becoming optimal. So that was a big turning point. So about 8 years into it is when I really started having momentum with that. But, I would say at 5 years afterwards is
long
when
journey.
I first started.
It
was a long journey. And there was, when I look back, I could say I lost some of my best years in my 30s because I was existing and not living.
Yeah.
And that may be the case, but I'm more than playing catch up now. So that's good. The fact that I was able to get to this point, that's very powerful because I know many people have not been able to. But that's another reason I shared my story and I'm doing what I'm doing now, because I want folks to know that no matter how much time it's been, or, whether it's just happened or whether, it happened a long time ago, they can, find a better state of being in not as long of a period of time as it took for myself, and I think that's the important, point of value rather that I need to share with others.
And you said about having a business mentoring by listening to podcasts and whatever the medium that you took in. Did you ever go as far as actually getting a mentor for your business?
Yeah, so not specifically for my specific business that I had started, but just overall for business in general, and high performance lifestyle and habits and whatnot, and just a different way of looking at things in life. So I listened to any kind of personal and professional development that fed my brain, that pushed me to the next level, by people who do that. There's so many people in that space that have podcasts, that have recordings, that wrote books, and I just immersed myself in that. And at different times, different things spoke to me. And once I realized, that one nugget, that I realized I need to do more. I need to grow past the person I am right now. It is my duty to do so. Once I started doing those things and made that commitment and was intentional about that pathway, it's been nonstop ever since.
Excellent.
It's been a blessing.
So tell me about your best-selling book, The American Dream.
Mhm. So American Dream is actually an acronym. So it's a very long title. It's American Dream: Discipline, Resilience, Endurance, Adaptability, and Mentorship. DREAM. And it's a memoir. Yes, I capture my story, growing up, then going to war, and then transitioning, and where I am now. But at the same point, I wanted it to be more than just a story. I wanted to share value and lessons learned, particularly for younger generations, for a lot of reasons, because the world has changed very much since I was a young person as well. Technology's played a big role in it, and globalization and whatnot. It's just a different type of world, and I think a lot of the lessons and resilience I experienced growing up in life, um, I don't think those exist as much today. It's just a different setting. So I wanted to provide an example and show how, I was a kid like you were too, and this is what I experienced, and this is the mindset and approach I took to get past any sort of struggle, and how it built resilience over a period of time, and it got me through tough times in the military. It got me through very tough time transitioning, and it has served me in life ever since. So I thought it was important. So it's a memoir / self-help. It came out October of 2019, hit Amazon bestseller, and yeah, I'm very excited because I've received a lot of communications from readers who have found value in their own way. Something in there had spoken to them, where they could resonate with a lesson from a story that I discussed in the book, even if they did not serve in the military, or even if they did not grow up in the same manner or whatnot. So I knew that there was a lot of value to share. And originally the book was 3 times the size of what it is right now. But also understanding consumerism, I didn't want to make this a novel because less people would be likely to dig in.
Yeah, that's fine. So you founded the Asymmetric Solution Group. Do you think you were a natural entrepreneur? Do you think it was always part of your makeup?
Yes, growing up in the North Jersey area, I I believe I talk about a few instances in the book of youthful entrepreneurship, and my father encouraged that. Both my parents are immigrants, and they worked hard, and they truly valued anything that was entrepreneurial, and encouraged us kids to go forth and pursue it. So I've always had that gene, if you will,
Yeah.
that proclivity, if you will, to do so. But at the same point, I've always valued the experiences that I've had working for organizations and entities, be it the military, be it corporate. For you always get something if you're growth minded. You're always going to get some value out of it. So, but it just got to the point where I realized, Well, there were a couple things. In 2012, when I first started Asymmetric Solutions Group, I wanted to help small businesses because I realized that the climate was not very small business friendly, and I felt I had perspectives that could help other small business owners. So it felt like a natural path to take. At the same point, too, I realized I'm a hard worker, and I'd rather work hard for my dreams than build somebody else's dreams.
Yeah.
That just really became clear over time.
Okay, excellent. So tell me a little bit about your Freedom Triangle framework.
Mhm. So in the book, I wrote the bulk of the book in a very short period of time. But then as I was spending time editing, reducing it, and whatnot, obviously I was living in my story of the past. So it was very much in my mind. And because my brain had gotten to such an optimized state, I was able to sleep well and dream and resolve my past in my sleep and wake up refreshed with answers. And that was very, very powerful and therapeutic, and to be able to do so, and cathartic in many ways. So I shared some of those epiphanies as I was going through it real time in the book, and coined what I call the freedom triangle, which is based upon time freedom, health freedom, and mind freedom. And it's very powerful. So I introduced the concept in the book, and right now I'm working on a digital course to get into more detail for folks that are looking for that kind of guidance. If people want to get started on becoming the best versions of themselves, finding that peace of mind because they're able to reconcile their past and they want to search their future, this is a starting point for them. They can go to thefreedomtriangle.com. There's a free download, and in there, they could print it. There are 3 questions, 3 secrets to finding your freedom triangle. And what I suggest is that people, print it, answer the questions, answer them truthfully, put it away, reflect on them, and see what they start to do differently in life. And it's so important because even people who are successful by the general sense of success, be it financial success, or they have everything that, they believe they want in life, they're usually left missing something. So even people who do not feel that their past is holding them back, they're searching for their future. And this is a guide as well that can help them find it on their own, because I didn't want to be prescriptive. My path is my path. Your path is your path. Everybody's going to have their own path, but we don't know what we don't know. And that's the most important thing I've learned by having mentors and listening and excuse me, I can't even say the word. Immersing myself in professional development. I was able to glean so many takeaways that spoke to me. And my takeaways are not going to be the same as yours, but we don't know that that's there. We don't realize that that's a resource. And I just try to, capture the general feel of, well, these are the areas. First, identify what area in your life needs to be improved upon, because some people don't realize what it is, till you define it. And then they can assess where they are at and assess, okay, this is essentially my strength, this is my weakness, this is what I need to fix.
So I'm actually going to go onto the website and answer the questions, because I think it's so important that you've hit the perfect triangle, I think, because everyone is either saying, I don't have enough time to start a side hustle, start a business, or I'm not as healthy as I want to be, I don't eat the right things, I smoke, whatever it is. Mindset, I'm never sure, I don't think I'm progressing, I don't think I'm moving forward in my career, or something like that. I think they really are such a powerful triangle. I really, so I'm going to go and log on and do those questions, because I think you've hit the nail exactly on the head. These are the 3 things that people will say to themselves, I'm lacking in one of the areas, at least one of the areas.
Absolutely. And, those that kind of like a little bit more context of it, in the book, I discuss it from a philosophical standpoint. And, we're all familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I see the merit in there, but I believe that given, today in the 21st century, we've evolved globally, and things are a little bit different now. And while some things are universal, I think there is a lot more to certain areas that we need to achieve, because with Maslow's hierarchy, once you find fulfillment, that's enough. But actually, no, and I know folks who've found fulfillment, but that's not enough. And that's why the Freedom Triangle speaks to those other areas, because you can have a purpose. You can have a purpose. I had a purpose several times after I returned from the military, but it wasn't enough. So a purpose alone is not enough. It's got to be the right purpose. So it's really intricate, but it's also very simple too, simplistic.
And you say there's a course as well that people can go on?
So I haven't finished it. My other project that I'm working on, the fragrance line, has been at the forefront right now. But if people sign up for, to get the free download, as soon as it is available, I will push out that information, because, my purpose, one of my purposes, if you will, is to help people find their freedom triangle.
That's absolutely brilliant. I think that's a really good idea. I think sort of education, this sort of area is really booming at the moment. So, of course, to help people along their journey of time, health, and mindset or mind is incredibly important. So, so what would you say if someone said, "I don't have enough time"? How would you talk them through that?
Right. So that's the time freedom portion. And a lot of times, time freedom is associated with financial freedom, and that could be a portion of it. But at the same point, you have to identify your priorities first and foremost, and you have to be clear with yourself, because what I've noticed is a lot of folks, and including myself, previously, make excuses for a lot of reasons. We don't realize we're making excuses. But if you truly want to resolve something, you will find the time, you will make the time, because we all have the same 24 hours in a day. So why are other people able to do it? Why are they so much more focused? And they may have more responsibility on their plate. So there's a series of things you can do, but you have to be able to first know what it is, what your desired end state is, and what it is you're trying to achieve. Because if you don't know it, going through these motions, or going through these steps, are just going to be going through motions. You're not going to, receive the value from it.
So you've talked about so far about your best-selling book, your entrepreneurial business, your Freedom Triangle framework. You've shifted again, which is amazing, into perfume as well for men and women.
Yes. So I officially launched Triangle Fragrance in May of this year. Have been working on it since the beginning of the year, and it's inspired by the Freedom Triangle. So it's the first veteran-owned luxury fragrance line for men and women. And I am really excited about it, because not only is it, obviously I'm biased, but it is a great eau de parfum, 18% concentration, plant-based alcohol. But not only is it a fine product, right? But on the box itself, we have confidence for women, we have victory for men. Both confidence and victory have their own story. And on the box itself, a beautiful box, red with gold, with the gold Freedom Triangle, it actually tethers to the Freedom Triangle and the first point, which is time freedom. So next month I'll be releasing the next two in the series, which tie to health freedom. And later on this year, we'll have the blue. So health freedom is going to be white with gold, and then the blue series, which is going to be the mind freedom. Again, one for men, one for women. So the set, upon completion, will complete the Freedom Triangle, and it'll be red, white, and blue, which our beautiful flags colors. Yeah. But inside.
No, go on. I was just going to say, where can people find it?
Yeah, if they go to trianglefragrance.com, they can purchase it there. And I also wanted to highlight, again, since it's very relevant to what we're discussing, besides the story of confidence and victory, we also have inside a little card that you can put in your wallet, that you can put on your mirror, you could put in the vehicle, in your car, and it has eloquent statements that tie to the self-help piece of the Freedom Triangle. So it's something that people can bolster themselves with on a daily basis while they spray this beautiful fragrance on them as well.
That's a lovely idea. That's a really nice idea. Um,
Thank you.
Right, we're coming to the end of the interview. I ask everyone that's on my podcast 5 questions. They're quick fire questions. They don't need a quick fire answer, depending on what you want to tell me about. So, first question is, what's the best decision that you made?
Best decision I made was to believe in myself and trust my gut and follow my instinct and not rely on others. And that decision I've turned to numerous times in my life. And the beauty about that is it has continuously served me and it has not failed me.
Brilliant. What's the best piece of advice that you've been given?
I will generally say that anybody that wants to make a change, they need to make that commitment. And the first step to making that commitment is to take a pen to paper and write it down. Write down, as ridiculous as it may sound to some folks, write it down. Set your intention right now.
I totally agree. The actual process of writing it down actually solidifies it in your brain rather than just thinking about it or musing about that, oh, I'd like to do this or do that. If you make yourself more accountable as well by writing things down.
Precisely.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Who's helped you most in your career?
I will say Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone, unbelievable business mentor. I pay him right now
Right.
to receive continued mentorship because he's figured out a thing or two. And wonderful man who really pours into those that want to better their lives. And in many ways, he's in the same position too. He feels it took me a long time to get to where I am, and he's trying to help us by those that are interested by providing shortcuts and sharing what worked. And I already had that mindset and mentality. So here, they have a phrase, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And, when I first started listening to him and then saw him speak live, and ever since I've learned and gleaned so much value from what he shares with the world.
Does he do his mentorship just over Zoom, or do you or video conferencing, or do you do face-to-face as well with him?
Yeah, so we Zoom certainly, and that's been wonderful. Now in 2020, and people worldwide are able to connect over Zoom. But he does have personal, mentorship available depending on what a person's looking for and whatnot. So I'm actually going to be flying to his offices shortly, and I'm really excited because I have specific questions about how I can scale and grow all the things that I'm doing right now, specifically with the fragrance and the Freedom Triangle, because I want to reach as many people as I can reach and serve those who are looking.
Awesome. Do you have any regrets?
No regrets. And that's the beauty about when you get to that, state of limitless and peace of mind. It's a beautiful thing because you literally are at peace with everything that has happened in the past, whether it's happened to you or happened by you. And it's a beautiful journey.
Good. That's a really nice answer. What are you most proud of?
I would say my service in the military during a time of war. It was an honor to be part of our finest, fighting force, and to do the job that, quite frankly, less than 1% of the population signs up to do. And, I'm very honored. That will always be near and dear to me. And, even though I knew I wouldn't do that forever, it was a big part of my life, and I am very grateful to have served.
Awesome. Thank you very much for this interview. It's been really fascinating. Where's the best place people can find you?
Sure. Magda Khalifa. So on Instagram, I'm at magda.khalifa.usa. Also have a official Magda Khalifa Facebook page, magdakhalifa.com, and then of course Triangle Fragrance. I have social media for that, trianglefragrance.com, and thefreedomtriangle.com.
Yep, that's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. It's been really interesting. Thank you very much. See you later.
Thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks a lot.
One more thing before you go, I just want to share with you something that's going to be happening on Saturday, the 11th of July at 7:30 p.m. UK time. It's basically, I'm going to create a secret club. So if you're listening to this, it means you've listened to the whole of the podcast, and you're going to be part of this secret club where we're going to have a get together on Zoom, and hopefully being at 7:30 in the evening, I can catch UK people and US people as well, and Europe as well. So we're going to get together and we're going to have a conversation about the podcast and talk about the things that are good, things that are bad, things you'd like to improve, and just have a general discussion about it. Equally, if I can help you with some coaching questions that you might have, then please do bring them along as well. If you're interested in property, I can share my experiences that I've had with property as well, and hopefully those things will be able to help you. So what I want you to do is go on to the website, which is absolutebusinessmindset.com. Go to the bottom where it says contact us, register your interest. There's a few details you need to fill in, and then I will send a Zoom invite over to you, and we can get together. So it's Saturday the 11th of July at 7:30 p.m. and you're able to have a chat with me, have an individual chat with me. Hopefully there'll be a few of you online, and we can answer all your questions, and you can share your thoughts on the podcast. So as I said, secret club, you've done really well to listen to the end of the podcast and listen to this as well. I really appreciate it. We can get some of you online and we can have a discussion. All right, guys, I really appreciate your time. Thanks a lot. Bye.